Welcome to NocBro Nation.
What's going on, guys?
Hey guys, today we have just been waiting for this moment. We have our interview with Donny Cates.
Yes, indeed. So sit back, relax, and watch this video with the interview with Donny Cates. It is amazing. It's probably just about an hour.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to take too much time because we could probably spend 10 hours with him discussing God, country, and redneck and everything. But so yeah, it's just you'll see the video from us. You'll hear Donny Cates over the phone. He wasn't able to do a video chat, which is no big deal. But stay tuned, and we'll talk to you guys when it's over.
See you in a bit for reactions.
See ya.
NocBro Nation, how's it going?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Donny.
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm all right.
Not to you didn't get to enjoy the eclipse today, did you?
Yeah, a little bit. We got like a partial one. So, yeah, it's all right.
Looks like we don't see you on video. Do you want to do it over audio?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
perfect.
have my makeup on or anything.
No worries.
Yeah, Donny, first of all, this is Josh. I just want to thank you for giving us time to talk to us, and it's really an honor for us to get to finally talk to a creator of one of our favorite series right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. I think you guys tagged me in one of your videos, and I think I watched all of them, and I was like, well, if these guys are just going to talk for like 9 hours about this book that I did, I might as well, call them up and say what's up.
Yeah,
definitely. Thank you. So, yeah, obviously. So, what was your inspiration behind creating God Country?
Well, it's kind of a bummer of a story. It's not the bummer story that everyone expects. I like 3 years ago or so, I had a kind of shitty, profound health event that happened to me. That for a little bit there, didn't seem like things were going to really turn out that great. Obviously they did. I'm totally fine now, but at the time it was looking pretty touch and go. To be perfectly honest, God Country was an idea that I had dating back as far as like 2007.
Oh wow!
And the original idea for it was really, really dumb. It was like a hillbilly who finds Thor's hammer, right? That was about the long and the short of it. And it was really stupid. And I actually pitched it around a long time ago and got resoundingly, rejected from everyone because it was dumb. And I kind of put it away for the longest time. But there was like this one sequence in the pitch that I actually really liked, which was this idea of the sword coming down through a tornado. I always really thought that was a really evocative image.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, my back door is really squeaky. You're going to be hearing that a lot. You might be
That's all right.
That's all right. You might hear my kid walk in and interrupt us.
Yeah, that and like my back porch, everyone's just like, where are you? Are you like in a wildlife sanctuary? So I, almost died like 3 years ago. And when I came out of it, when I came out the other side of it, I had a lot of feelings, a lot of kind of things that had just occurred to me. When I was going through like my health thing, there came a point where it was looking like I wasn't going to be able to be the man that I thought I was going to be for my family, for my wife. Right. It was looking like she was going to have to take care of me for the rest of my life, and that pretty much everything that I cherished, my family and my friends and my writing and my hobbies and stuff, were going to just go away like instantly, right?
Wow.
And so, thank God, it ended up being totally fine. But you come out of that and you have a lot of things to say. And so I wanted to talk about those things. I wanted to talk about this idea of kind of meeting your own mortality and the idea of finding that kind of a strength to keep going and or let go if that's what needs to happen.
Right.
And you kind of filter all of those kind of bummer ideas through the lens of a kid who grew up in Texas reading Jack Kirby, New Gods comics, and what comes out the other side is God Country.
Wow. That's amazing. That's great. And this is Jarell, by the way.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things that I really enjoyed is, not having seen one of my family members go through this. I heard about it from my own father. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, and he told me just about the massive implications of what he had to go through, trying to communicate with his father and his father not knowing who he was or any part of his family. So how did you come up with giving that to a character within a comic that you were writing for, a very focal point of that character to have to go through that disease and be a focal point of the comic?
Man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where that specific thing came from, why I chose Alzheimer's as kind of a surrogate for kind of the things that I had gone through. My wife tends to think that, like, I'm just a colossal sucker for father and son stories. Just any of them. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 last night, and fucking Yondu and Star-Lord just kills me, man. It just kills me.
Haven't even seen it yet.
I haven't seen that either.
Oh, you guys have got to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I don't know where that particular thing came from. I knew that as soon as the idea of Alzheimer's kind of popped into my head, that a lot of things started connecting with the story right away. A lot of metaphorical pieces and characters and what they could mean, what they ended up meaning, kind of snapped into place really quick. The idea that Vala Fax would return, his family and his name to him, and things like that. And so I found myself with a hero who was fighting for so much more than just your average, like, I'm going to get rid of evil kind of a thing. And that was very evocative to me. And then also when you kind of extrapolate from that, like, central idea, something that I always really liked about the book is that the book opens with this conflict that, in comparison to the rest of the story, seems pretty small.
Right.
This idea that the grandfather has Alzheimer's and it's separating him and his son, and then that in turn is separating his son from his own family and his daughter. That's the central conflict of the entire book. And what's cool about it is, once I kind of put some thought into it, that central conflict never goes away.
Right.
It only becomes bigger.
Yeah.
Because so every god to me is an idea, is one of those same ideas, but just writ very large. So Aristus, which you guys, that's the only reason I wanted to call in, because you guys were saying all the gods' names wrong. So I was like, well, I gotta tell them.
Of course we did.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew we were going to butcher them.
It's Aristus. Well, you know what? That's
Aristus? Okay.
Aristus to me.
Okay.
And Baelgrim and Atum.
Atum.
Atum. Yeah.
I actually like that a lot better.
So Aristus is obviously the idea of his Alzheimer's embodied into a person, embodied into a god, because Aristus is this kind of neutral threat. He doesn't want to fight. He's just doing what he's designed to do. And what he is sadly designed to do in this story is to take things away from Emmett. So it's very much like his Alzheimer's. It's something that he cannot reason with, that he can't debate with. It's something that he can only fight, that he can only face. And so the god of war ended up being this idea of his continual battle with his disease, right? And then Baelgrim, obviously, is him dealing with his own death. And it's only when he confronts his own death that he is ready to face his illness again in the body of Aristus.
That is so cool.
And then when he gets to a point where he knows that the only way that he's going to beat his illness is by losing his family, i.e. when he loses control and becomes the storm that was destroying his own house, is when he makes pretty much everyone who's dying of a disease, he makes their final step, which is everyone's final step, which is, I'm going to plead with God. And so he literally goes to heaven and he pleads with God in the form of a tomb. And so that last issue is very much, in my opinion, an old man having a conversation with God.
Wow, that is cool.
And he says things, I mean, that's why it might be a little bit too telling of my opinion of God, because a tomb says you don't matter.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty ruthless.
But, you know, a tomb also says you didn't get Alzheimer's because you're cursed.
Right.
And you didn't get the blade because you're chosen.
Yeah.
Things just happen.
Right.
You know? So there can be some comfort in that as well, I think. So to answer your question, I don't know. I just know that as soon as I hit upon the Alzheimer's thing, everything that I just told you snapped into place. All of those things became really clear.
Yeah, nice. Definitely.
Yeah, so to me, I found a lot of the dialogue at times was very captivating and emotional. So as you're writing this, do you find yourself, you know, just enraged with emotion as you're, you know, planning it out and writing it down?
Yeah, absolutely. I do that a lot, man. I and my wife will be the first person to tell you that. When I was writing the first issue, when Roy and Janie are having their big argument on the porch and everything, there was one line that got cut, and I cut it for length, and it didn't work for me. But that line, when I originally wrote it and I wrote that scene, their argument also in the first draft was much longer. And my wife walked into my office and to tell me something, I don't know. And I turned around and I was crying. And she was just like, "What is wrong with you? What is happening?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm just in this scene." And the scene, the line that was cut that I like, but it didn't. Roy needed to be stronger than this. During that raining sequence when he walks outside and she's leaving and she's taking everything,
right.
Roy just doesn't say anything for a while and she walks away, and then he says, "Why are you being so mean to me?"
Right.
Oh man.
And it fucking killed me. It just killed me so much that he like reverted back to a little boy, you know, of like, "Why are you picking on me?" You know, like, because he couldn't. And the metaphor there is ended up being very nice, because he is, when you look at the art for that page, what Jeff did was he literally made Roy unable to leave like the porch and the safety of his father's home, thus making him a son and making him make his choice of, I'm going to be a son instead of a father. And then in issue 5, when that same scene plays out, when Janie says, "We're leaving," there's a beat of silence, and he walks off of the porch.
Wow.
And walks with them. So he's made a choice to be a father. And so it's also telling in issue 6 when the last few captions where it says that this is a story about, you know, when Roy is burying his father and his son, the caption of a father that's referring to Emmett but is laid over Roy.
Right.
And so it's in the end it's been Roy's kind of story the entire time, and his kind of journey on finding out how to be a man, and in the end figuring out that the best step towards that was to learn from his own father. He does so by what we at Team God Country call the everything spread.
Right.
That big spread in the last issue. Which the entire book was built around, by the way. That final spread in the final issue was built like that. Every single beam and structure of that entire book was building towards that.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's great. So one of the great things I really enjoyed was, you know, you can see the, you know, Emmett, the power of Emmett and Vala Fax. But wondering from you, was it truly And there were times where Emmett really showed that he was controlling Vala Fax more than Vala Fax was controlling his power. So truly, in the end, was it all Emmett with everything that he was mustering, with wanting to, you know, remember his family and do everything he could, or was it more Vala Fax leading him and instructing him more than anything else?
Great question.
No answer?
No, I tried to play it as kind of nebulous as possible. You know, there's a lot of times where Vala Fax is kind of not present, and doesn't speak up when you think that it might. By the way, I fall into calling Vala Fax he all the time as well, and I'm the dude who wrote that line. So I have to concentrate on it's not a person, it's a sword. So I try, and my thinking on that was always that, you know, Vala Fax's big speech, and I think issue 3 that starts off, "Do you think me a toy?" That was kind of Vala Fax's explanation of like why I'm not going to be here all the time and why you're going to have to do some shit on your own, because I'm all blades. You know, like I'm doing a lot of shit right now. Like I am busy, you know. And he says, though, you know, but in those moments that I'm needed, I will be there. So, you know, in the end, when Vala Fax, Emmett throws Vala Fax slits Atum's throat. So here's the thing about that scene. It was Emmett's choice, right? But Vala Fax straight up says that he was doing that back in issue 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So who the fuck did that, right?
Exactly.
And to me, it answers the question of why did Vala Fax choose Emmett Quinlan?
Yeah.
And I think that if you were to, and I don't know the answer to that question, just so you know. I think I have my own version of the answer, which is if you kind of extrapolate all the data there, that all the clues that kind of lead up, it seems to me that maybe Vala Fax kind of knew that Atum needed to die, and chose a person whose path was leading towards that. And like, you know, why did he choose him? Because he had to choose him, because Atum had to die.
Right.
It's all very weird, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I don't claim to understand the thinking of a, you know, indestructible, enchanted, 12-foot talking sword. So
right.
I wouldn't deem to speak for Vala Fax. I mean, Vala Fax is beyond my control at this point. I don't know if you guys read I Hate Fairyland, but Vala Fax just showed up in I Hate Fairyland.
Yeah,
Wow,
I actually seen a tweet of that, and I have not had a chance to read that, and I'm like, I'm picking that up just to see that.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, honestly, Vala Fax is out of my control now. Like, it's off doing whatever the hell it wants to do. And in my opinion, because Vala Fax is such a, ethereal, mysterious beast, all of these things are canon. Yeah. Like, the I Hate Fairyland thing is canon. If it shows up in any other book that I'm not involved in, canon. It all happened.
I'd like to see Rick Grimes pull it out.
Yeah, that would be the end of the zombie problem immediately.
Yeah. So was it kind of backpacking off of that? Was it difficult coming up with a personality for Vala Fax? Because I mean, he kind of has his own personality. I mean, he seems, you know, very wise and he's kind of like, okay, I'm everything. This is how I'm going to talk to you,
and cocky, right?
And kind of cocky, yeah.
Yeah, I read a lot of to kind of prepare for Vala Fax. I read a great deal of like Neil Gaiman's Sandman, because you know Dream is everywhere at once.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and in the kind of mercurial way that he speaks, and that you don't know all the time what he's referring to, and every line that he says, it feels like he knows more than he's saying. I'd be lying if I didn't admit to you guys that there was some C-3PO in there somewhere too. There's like it's like this like kind of uptight British lad,
right.
Combined with like this kind of cold, uncaring god. you know.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we briefly hear from Atum about his other sons, and I probably won't even say their name because I'm going to butcher them.
We're going to screw them up.
But did they suffer the same fate as their brother?
Their names are Arion and Vatore, and they are just the last. They're just the last names of the two guys who make Southern Bastards. It's just Jason Aaron and Jason Vatore.
Nice.
Nice.
Southern Bastards is my favorite comic out there.
I have read that. It's awesome.
Literally, there's no reason for those brothers to be in there except for I just wanted to do that, and also just to show that he's lost a lot. Just to show that over the years, through his conquering and stuff, if you look at the art in the what is that, issue 4? What is that?
It's issue 4, I think. Yeah, they're like really young. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's 5. It's
5. Yeah. Sorry.
The origin of I don't know. They're really little, and you see him and his 4 children, and then in each subsequent panel, there's a kid gone, and so you can kind of track it and. You know, who knows, man? I would like to think that look, by all accounts, Atum's pretty careless with kids.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's not overly fond of them. You know, what's funny, too, is that you guys actually are hinting around kind of one of the only errors in the book, because Arceus clearly states my brothers, the arc is so clearly a boy and a girl.
Yeah, I
thought it was a girl. And you're like, no, it's a boy. I was like, come on.
We actually had a little bit of an argument about that before we started a video.
No, it's just a mistake. It's just I think Jeff drew it, and I. No, you know what? I was going to blame it on Jeff for a second. It's totally my fault. I wrote brothers, but then I think in a panel description I wrote a boy and a girl. So I mean, look, shit happens. You know, I mean,
yeah. Josh was like, "No, it's a boy. He's just got long hair, just like that."
Yeah,
okay,
it's a beautiful boy.
So I actually had a chance to listen to your San Diego Comic-Con, the comic creator panel. And what I liked about that is you actually said for a question on Redneck that you put a lot of your life experiences in the Redneck story. Other than Texas, are there any other things from God Country from your life in this particular series?
I mean, obviously when you're writing about fathers and sons, you know, as someone who is a son and not a father, you know, there's a lot of my dad in Emmett, but not necessarily in the way of there's a part where Roy says that he was never like that with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my dad. My dad has always been incredibly supportive and sweet, and all those things. But there's, you know, I don't know a single guy who's kind of my age, or really, I guess, any age, who didn't have at least a small period in their life where they butted heads with their father.
Yeah.
You know, and at least for me, it's a time in my life where I was, you know, fucking punk rock, smoking dope, man type of shit, you know, which started really early for me. I'm talking about like 9, dude. Like I started rebelling hard early, and you know, my dad did the best he could, but I was a piece of shit, and so I absolutely, you know, relate to that idea of there being things that you really wish could be taken back and repaired, and things that you can't fix, you know, and unspoken things and things. I think that any father and son have those things, right? You know, those unspoken things, things that never got fixed, that just kind of got bridged over, you know. I will say that the everything spread. What happened with that spread was. In the script, I put a call out to the entire creative team and said, hey, if you guys have, things that you would like to put in here that you and your own father did, let's put them in there. And so the whole creative team gave us notes about, hey, let's build a fort. Hey, let's go fishing. Hey, let's, you know, my dad picked me up for school when I was sick, you know. My favorite thing in that whole spread is this Because what you're seeing essentially, I mean, you get the impression that Emmett gave everything to his son, right?
Yeah.
And the things that you're seeing that are kind of blown out to the front are the things that Emmett maybe holds the dearest.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is just him watching TV with his son on the couch.
Right.
To me, it speaks volumes of Emmett. That is one of the things that he held on to.
Yeah.
That like that quiet moment that didn't change anything, that like wasn't anything that you would frame up on the wall or put in a scrapbook. It's just one of those things that he looks back on and was like, that was a good day.
Yeah.
Right.
And like it's shit like that fucking breaks my heart. It kills me, man.
That panel put me to tears.
Yeah,
I mean, that was an
memory
amazing
panel.
the memory panel.
That got me.
It was great. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also, Jeff. Jeff put a lot of himself in this book as well. Jeff's one of my best friends, and we've done a lot of work together, and we're doing Thanos right now at Marvel.
Yeah, we're waiting for that.
Together. I can't wait for that.
Thanks. And so there's a lot of Jeff and Jeff's family in there as well. It's not just me. There's a lot of everyone's family and everyone's experiences that went into that thing. Particularly when you talk about Jeff and the things that he kind of brought to it. Go back and look at the room, like Roy's childhood room, and look at all of the posters that are on the walls and the books that are on the bookshelf and everything. They're all books that inform the overall aesthetic of the book. They're all books that were on Jeff's shelf, that were on my shelf.
Wow.
There's a poster for Kirby's New Gods.
That's awesome.
He's drinking Duff beer from The Simpsons. Which sometimes, look, I don't know if you guys have ever read a book that Jeff and I did called The Paybacks.
No, I haven't read that yet.
So Jeff and I did this book called The Paybacks, and it's our ode to big two superhero books.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 1,000 fucking superheroes in it, right? And the kind of the thrust of the book is that the Paybacks are a superhero repo team, meaning that if you wanted to be a superhero and you couldn't afford to buy your Iron Man suit, your Batcave, and you took a loan out for it, well, who the fuck could come and collect if you didn't pay it back, right? Because you're Iron Man. And so the Paybacks are a group of like C and B list heroes who themselves have defaulted on a loan and now are working it off, repoing other heroes. And the only reason I walk you through that whole thing is to tell you that there's all these scenes of them going to like, a version of the Justice League Watchtower or the Batcave, and in their warehouse of all the things that they've collected, man, Jeff would just hide so many things. Like, to this day, people tweet me about finding the little Easter eggs. I had no fucking clue were ever in there.
That is awesome.
And everyone is always like, oh, Donnie, I see what you did here. I'm like, hey, look, legally speaking, I didn't do shit. Like, I definitely did not do that. And there were so many times where, like, it was a Dark Horse book, that Dark Horse would come back and say, hey, guys, we can't just put the Hulk in this book. Like, you're gonna have to redraw him or something, but like, this is just the Hulk. And so we'd like color him pink or some stupid shit and put it out, But like, yeah, Jeff just does shit like that. He just fucking draws in little things that keep him interested. And then what the added benefit of that is when you go back and you look through the book, it's a world that feels very lived in. It's a world that looks worn. The family truck that they have, like, it looks like something that you would drive every day. It doesn't look like just like a model of a truck that someone drew,
Yeah.
And I know I'm not answering your question, although I'm just going off on a thing.
Oh, you're good.
To talk about Jeff a little bit more, Jeff brought so much to this book. The way that the panels are laid out, they're all widescreen. So it's all full tiers, even when traditionally speaking, the panel wouldn't call for it. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind that was to make the book feel physically bigger than it actually was. We wanted, when you open it up, for it to feel enormous, like Texas, like God. Right. And so a lot of the times you'll see the characters are very small. Mm-hmm. And the landscape is the thing that's doing most of the talking.
Massive, yeah.
You know, And the scale of those things change as the story goes on. Those widescreen panels start to kind of change and morph when we go to two different locations. But when we go to Hell, Emmett gets smaller, and Baelgrim rises. And then when we go to the Kingdom of Always, our panel layouts start to change and warp and start to get odd and start to get skewed, to make it feel off balance, to make you as the reader feel uncomfortable, like
that's
something's
crazy.
coming, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so he did all these things all the time. And if you look as well, there's certain panels, especially in issue 5, which is the war in Texas issue, where as Emmett begins to win that fight, just how the panels are laid out, Emmett starts to appear closer to the camera, making him seem bigger than the God of War. And he slowly changes and gets bigger until that big spread where he shows up with the hammer and the sword, and he's looming over this 20-foot tall god. And like, I would love to sit here and tell you that I fucking thought all of that up and put it in the script, and like, certainly some of it, but Jeff just, I mean, I've never worked on a project where every single person on the team knew exactly what we were all trying to accomplish, got on the same page, and just started improvising in the same key, even Jason on the colors. I mean, the colors tell so much of a story by themselves.
Oh, yeah.
They
were vibrant. They were great.
Yeah, and that was you actually answered my next question, which you know how the story goes and how it possibly ends, but how much creative collaboration did you give to the team? And obviously you answered most of that, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the story was nailed down for a really long time. Obviously, things kind of ebb and flow as far as different beats as you go along. The story never really changed very much as we went along, but certainly like Jason and John Hill, they all added so much to it. And the thing is, sometimes that can be, if you're not working with the right team and everyone's not on the same, like, keyed into the same wavelength, sometimes that can be not bad, but it can be, there's a lot of going back and forth before you hit the right note.
Could delay things up a bit.
Well, yeah, but you always want to allow for that freedom for people to go in there and interpret things.
For sure.
A lot of times you'll just go in there and say like, "Oh man, like I see what you're doing. That's rad. Let's change this and that though, and let's make sure that we're really getting across your idea in the perfect way." With this, there was none of that.
Yeah.
Like the colors would come in from Jason, and they would be telling a story by themselves, and then Jeff would come in and they would be telling a story. And I mean, the biggest thing that I did as a writer, beyond the usual, shit, was when the art would come in, I would regularly go in and just yank dialogue out of a panel and just be like, I don't need to do anything here. Jeff is selling it.
Really?
Like, Jeff is, like, this character doesn't need to talk here because, like, Roy's face is perfect. Like, Roy's face says everything that it's like this drawing is doing better than any word that I could do.
So does that go back to the scene with Roy and Janie that you were speaking about earlier? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of that too came out of Jeff's work when it came in. I was like, I don't need to. He's just doing such a perfect job at selling this, a good example of that is the last. It's the big confrontation that Roy has with Emmett. In the end of the 5th issue, before Emmett leaves and goes to the Kingdom of Always. That last confrontation where Roy says, "You're scaring the shit out of my family."
Right, yeah.
And how hard that hits Emmett. That idea of your family. Like that phrase just crushes him, And there was so much more of a back and forth there at first. And then the art came in, and I was like, man, fuck all this shit. Like, all these words, man, this is perfect. And so it really got beaten. And actually, I only own one piece of art from each of my books. So each of my books I have one page from, and I always try and choose a scene that I think is very, very fitting that kind of describes the whole book. And in fact, that's the page that I have.
Oh, that's
page
cool.
where Emmett looks down and says, "Your family." That's
cool.
the page I have.
That's awesome. That's great. So I wonder if this is kind of a crazy question. Not sure if you'd be able to answer it, but it's one thing I thought about is, did you ever write Emmett living through the end? No? Never came up?
No, that was the whole point of the whole book. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've done a bunch of books by now, and every book that I've ever done, for the most part, I've always planned out this huge story, and it's always gotten, just because of sales or the market or what have you, it's always gotten kind of chopped down to 4 issues or 8 issues or any of these things, right? With God Country, I wanted to do 6 issues. It was always planned out for 6 issues. I didn't want to do any more. I didn't want to do any less. Okay. And a lot of my older work, while critically and, you know, from fans was very well received, never really sold too hot.
Right.
And this was my first Image book, God Country was. And none of us expected it to do what it did. None of us had any clue that it was going to kind of go as far as it did, as far as you know, being received as well as it did, and getting the attention that it did. So it was just very weird. I mean, Jeff and I honestly probably had, you know, 10 or 12 4-hour phone calls where, because as soon as it started popping off and it started being a thing, Image, specifically Eric Stevenson, who's the president there, called me and said, "So, hey, do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to make this into an ongoing? And, you know, you can go as long as you want, man, because the series is doing really well." And, you know, Jeff and I batted around a few different ideas about how we could do it. Yeah. And every single one of the ideas ended up being a story about an old man fighting a bunch of monsters with a magic sword, and that's just so not what I wanted to do. Yeah, you know, I was just not interested in that whatsoever. And really, what it came down to for Jeff and I was that we would only be doing it for money, and that's not a good reason to make art. It's just not.
Yeah, that's awesome,
for sure.
And you know, I really love the idea that God Country is now this one volume that you can just hand to somebody and say, "This is the whole thing." You know, some of my favorite comics that have ever been made are like that. Kingdom Come, I Kill Giants, which was a huge inspiration for this book, which you should, if you haven't read, you should absolutely read that book. You know, Watchmen, for Christ's sake. I'm not comparing my book to Watchmen, I promise. Right. So I'm just saying, like, a lot of our, like, cultural touchstones as far as comics are that very thing, are just a one volume that you can hand to somebody and say, "Hey, here is this vision of one story that was uncompromised." You know, and I wanted at least one of those before I started, because, you know, Redneck's an ongoing, Baby Teeth is an ongoing, Thanos, Doctor Strange, these are stories that'll, you know, go on for a long time, some of them without me, for sure, right?
That's really good, because Redneck is like one of our favorites right now, so
loving it
never
right
stop that one.
Oh, thank you. I just turned in issue 17
that's awesome.
Just the other day, about to crank up issue 18. Yeah, we have that book planned and approved out through 50 issues right now. Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, when your characters don't age, man, makes shit real easy.
That's awesome.
You know? So yeah, I mean, there were some ideas battered around about a sequel maybe, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. Now, ask me again in 5 years when I'm not doing a whole bunch of Marvel titles and things like that. maybe my integrity won't be as ironclad, and I'll put out a, you know, Jay and Silent Bob-esque sequel. Yeah. I don't think so, though.
One of my next questions was actually going to be, hey, maybe there could be a sequel in the realm of Nebraska.
That's where we're at.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You could have snow in it, you know? It could be kind of cool.
Boo. No, I think hey, no offense. It's lovely.
Oh, well, I'm not a Husker fan, so.
Yeah. The only sequel that I could ever foresee or contemplate, I should say, because there are zero plans, and I don't want to do it. But it would be Vala Fax. It would be the story of Vala Fax. It would not be the Quinlans.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I think it would be quasi disrespectful to the original story if Emmett came back and was back and everything's fucking cool, but certainly Vala Fax is still around and doing stuff. But again, I'd be kind of shooting myself in my own foot, because the final issue of God Country makes it very abundantly clear that this is not a story about a magic sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to jump mediums here, but it almost kind of made me think of, as you're answering that, like Breaking Bad. Like, so many people want Breaking Bad back, but it ended so great.
Yeah, but do you want it back? No.
Exactly.
You don't really want that. That's the thing too. When people found out that God Country was not an ongoing, people were like legit mad at me on Twitter and Facebook. Like, people, dude, I'm not even kidding. Like, people told me that they were going to drop the book because it wasn't ongoing.
Oh, that's
and I was
crazy.
like, that don't make no kind of sense, bro. I mean, like this pizza is phenomenal, but there's not infinity of it, so I'm going to throw it in the garbage? What? Does that make any sense? And so I kept on just telling people online, there's a lot of people who said that, like, people were attacking Image for canceling it. Wow. And I was like, no. That's not how anything works. Like, no one has been more supportive of this book than them. Yeah, so I kept on just telling everyone online, I kept on just saying, read issue 6.
Yeah.
Like get to the finish line and then come back and tell me if you want more.
Right.
But just get there. I think that for a good chunk of the comics fandom, they're just so used to an ongoing story, or books that want to be ongoing in stuff, that, I'm a big fan of third acts, and like, I love my Spider-Mans, my X-Men's and stuff, but, Spider-Man had a first act that was a single issue long and has been in a second act and will be in a second act until the sun burns out in the sky.
Right.
Yeah.
And so third acts to me are such beautiful things that are so important. And with a book like God Country that is about a third act, the entire book is a third act. Like his entire life has gone by. We are in his last days. I don't think that it's so funny though. I see people reviewing it or talking about it and stuff who were surprised by his death in the last issue. And I was like, you got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of knew it was coming too, because I kind of were starting to pick up on the actual true meaning of the comic was about family, and it's like, it's about sacrifice and doing everything you can, and there's no way Emmett's going to survive this, because he's going to give himself to his own son, and for his own son to continue on and the story to continue on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just feel like, in my opinion too, how tacky that ending would have been if he had been healed. Like, imagine if you were someone in your family had gone through this, that you had lost, and then you read this story where a magic sword just heals someone's Alzheimer's, and like everything's just okay now. Are you kidding? Like, that's not okay. The only ending that someone predicted online, they were wrong, obviously, but I was like, oh, that's really clever, actually. Someone predicted the ending that the person telling the story, in fact, was Emmett, and that at the end of the story, he loses the sword and forgot it all.
Oh.
And so, but he had enough to know that this story happened, and he thought that maybe someone had told it to him. And so, like, the last part of the book was going to be Emmett, like, old and feeble and dying, and telling this story to Roy, and Roy being like, "Yeah, Pop, that's a good story." I was like, "Oh, that's a great ending! Like, that's brilliant. That's better."
I like your ending better. I thought it was great. Yeah. That's awesome. So, with everything that you're working on, Baby Teeth, Redneck, doing your Marvel with Thanos and Doctor Strange, like how with writing for everything, every single character, how do you basically stay in the zone for all of that?
I don't know. I've always been pretty good at keying into the specific themes and tones of a book, and more than that, really, all of my stories are very character centric. All of my books that I write are character first, you know. And so, like, I know who Bartlett is. He's like a friend. Like, I just know how he talks, and I know who Sadie is. I know how she speaks and how she would react to certain things. I've known Doctor Strange since I was able to read. I've been following Thanos since I was a little kid. So those things are very easy for me to detect when someone is acting out of character. The other thing that I do, though, that I really enjoy doing is, I've been doing this since I first started. Whenever I'm writing an issue or a specific book, I always score it. I always choose songs to go along with every single issue.
That's cool.
And with every book and everything. And so actually every single issue that I turn in, the first page of it always has a link to the song that I was into when I was writing the issue. And so I like to put it there so that the editors or the artists can key into that same song if they want to, and try and, you know, find where I was.
What was God Country's song?
There was a lot. Well, there was 6, I should say. I'll actually make the playlist available online. But the main theme was, see if I can find it really quick while I have you guys on here. If I lose you guys, let me know.
You're good. Sorry, we don't mean to keep you forever.
Oh no, they're fine. I found this one song. I have no earthly fucking clue how I found this song, because it's by this Swedish guy whose name is Olafur, Olafur, Arnold, Arnalds, and the name of the song is Only the Wind. And it was a song that I just kept on repeat I would literally just put it on repeat and write for hours as that song looped. Because to me, it was a perfect distillation of what the entire book sounded like to me.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
Now, let me tell you this. So on Thanos, I was presented with quite a problem. Because, like, on Doctor Strange, I put on a whole lot of synthwave. Because for whatever reason, to me, that's what I feel like Doctor Strange sounds like. Did you guys watch the new trailer for Thor?
Oh yeah.
You know that song that opens it up? It's like really synthy.
Yeah.
All right. So that song is by a band called Magic Sword, which is weird, right? And Magic Sword is a band that I had been jamming to, because my tattoo artist and one of my best friends, Ian, he also paints a tomahawk, which is a different book that I'm doing. Yeah. Ian had this Magic Sword album going while he was tattooing me, and I was like, damn, what the fuck is that? That shit's so dope. And then I put that Magic Sword album on when I was writing Doctor Strange. And then like a month went by and that Thor trailer came out and that Magic Sword song was on it. And that fucking Thor movie has Doctor Strange and Loki in it, which is what my book's about. Dude, isn't that weird?
Nice.
Weird. So anyway, for Thanos though, I couldn't marry the two ideas of Thanos and music. So every single time I tried to put on a song or find something that was like, you know, dark and intense and foreboding, I would be writing the galaxy's greatest murderer, right? and it would just occur to me that even though this music sounds menacing and mean, it was still created by artists.
Right.
And I feel like Thanos wouldn't be down with that shit.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't be down with art.
Be.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing is, have you guys ever heard recordings of space?
Yeah, I have, actually.
I haven't.
Yeah.
And how fucking unbelievably creepy it is?
It's creepy, yeah. It's really
creepy, right? And
yeah.
it sounds like some made-up dungeon synth shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like things that sound like wailing moans and like creaking doors that are like turned down by 1,000 and shit. And so all I ever do on Thanos is I just put that on.
It makes sense. I mean, it's like the deadest thing you can listen to, basically.
Yeah. It's the hollow screaming of like infinite black.
Exactly.
So like it's perfect for Thanos.
That explanation,
right?
It does fit it.
so the unintended consequences of that is that, like, for the first month or so that I was writing Thanos, I just had the most fucked up nightmares. Just crazy. And Thanos was in them, dude. And like, that's not a good dude to have hanging out.
That is not
in your brain at all. So yeah, to answer your question, I do that a lot. I'll key into certain, I'll score different books. And so, like, you know, on the days that I wake up and I say days, I take a week for every issue. When you're writing, I'm writing 5 books right now. And so it's just one a week, you know, one or 2 every week. And so for that block of that week, I'm putting on nothing but the specific score for that book. And it really helps me, you know, because after I write an issue of Redneck, it's 4 weeks until I get back to that world.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so when I get back to when Redneck comes back up in the rotation, it's really nice to go and take a walk and put on those jams.
Yeah.
You know? And weirdly enough, the first song on my Redneck playlist is White Zombie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was when I was coming up with the idea for Redneck, just by chance, I ended up watching The Devil's Rejects, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is what the book is. Like, it's this. It's like a family of monsters that you root for. That's the shit.
Yeah.
You know? And so I ended up putting a bunch of fucking gnarly ass Rob Zombie on there.
Is that how you came up with Grandpa? Because that was one of my questions. Like, how the hell did you come up with Grandpa? That guy he's crazy.
I don't know. It just seemed like a very natural thing to have this division in the family of kind of ages of patriarchies, you know, and like, you know, when you open up Redneck in the first issue, it very much seems like there's like a lot of things have already transpired before you ever get to the Bowman house.
Right. Yeah.
JV speaks of a time in which they were hunted down, and you get this implication that maybe there's not that many vampires left, you know, and they're very much in hiding. And in a perfect world, I feel like JV, in a perfect world of like, dude, yeah, if we were the dominant species, then absolutely we would run roughshod over this fucking planet and kill every single human being out there. Absolutely. But reality on reality's terms, we're not.
Yeah.
And we have to survive now. Like, we just have to live, you know? And, you know, to get into Redneck a little bit, you know, that's kind of the problem that opens that book up, is this idea of, well, just surviving isn't living.
Right.
You know? And we see that kind of play out with Greg and Seamus as they, you know, go out into town and the ramifications they're in.
Rampage.
Rampage, yeah. Man, I gotta tell you, there was, I think, the only time that Skybound and my editor, John, who was one of my other dear friends, pulled me back on a script was, I think, the 3rd issue of Redneck. The original draft of what Greg and Seamus did to that town was unfucking believable.
I want to read it. I want to see it.
And I mean, and John pulled me back because he was like, dude, this is an ongoing, and like your audience will never forgive them for this shit.
Yeah.
Like, they will never. And dude, like, I'm talking about. So I'll just tell you. The original draft was, it had Landry in the hospital, and they didn't know that. They go to his church first, and Greg is kind of standing outside of the church and says, like, bring Landry out. And they're like, you know, no, like, get fucked, like, you're a demon, like, get out of here. And they say some kind of a thing about how, like, you know, you can't come into this church anyway, so what are you going to do about it? And then Greg just kind of looks at him and he goes, well, I had to try, right? And just walks off. And they're like, what the hell was that? And then Seamus comes barreling down in a truck that the bed is filled with gasoline, like bins, like cans of gasoline.
Right.
And he drives it straight at the church, jumps out of the driver's seat. It like smashes into the church, and then Greg shoots the gasoline and blows the church up. And people like
love that.
That's what I'm saying. And so then people start like crawling out of the church on fire and shit. And I like
Jesus.
In the script I put like there's women and children in there, and they start crawling out, and Greg like picks one of them up, and it's just like, now where is Landry? And they tell him that they're at the hospital. And by the time we get to the hospital, Greg and Seamus have just been stalking the halls with shotguns, and they're just murdering every human being that comes in their sight. Literally, like they're walking down a hospital, like a corridor, and like a doctor runs down and just like, "What are you doing?" And they just shoot his face off. And then they get into this ER, and Landry is having surgery from the wounds that went down, right? And they rip him off of the table while he's having surgery, and they turn him there. They like bite into him because the doctor is like, if you unhook him, he will die. And they're like, nah, we got it. Don't worry about it. And they just rip him off the table and turn him right then and there. And then they burn the hospital down, you guys.
Holy shit.
Yeah. They burn the hospital down. And so, like, look, I really like that to this day.
That was awesome.
I still really like it.
That turns it up to 11, but that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. But John very correctly was like, whoa. What are you doing? And I was like, dude, they're monsters.
Yeah.
Like, they're vampires, right? And he was like, right, dude, but they're not doing monster or vampire shit. They're just lunatic murderers. And I was like, oh, right. I was like, oh, right. I guess nothing that they do in that entire sequence is necessarily vampire-based.
Right, yeah. They're not turning everybody. They're just killing them.
I just was like shotgun murdering people. So, to John's credit, he very wisely was like, this is the third issue, dude. Like, it's an ongoing. So let's maybe build to that kind of a thing.
Right.
I was like, all right.
Let's build back a little bit. And
yeah.
Maybe ease up to that later on down the series.
That was badass, though. And the art. I know. And the art. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we won't burn children in the third issue. Except for, in my defense, I burned a little kid in the first issue.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, slap, right?
Yeah.
So,
but, again, a point in his favor, maybe too many burned kids for the first arc.
Right. Well, Donny, we could probably keep you on for another hour talking about Redneck. But we were actually thinking about possibly having you on again to talk about Redneck if you had the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we don't want to keep you. We definitely appreciate you coming on and talking with us, and we will make sure to get the characters' names right from now on. If we have to send you a little, email just to double check on the pronunciation, we'll do that because we don't want to mess that up.
Don't worry at all. Those gods' names were not. I didn't put much thought into it. Atum is just my cat's name, Autumn. That I just yanked the like she was sitting in my lap when I was trying to figure out the name of that god, and I was like, that'll do.
That's awesome, though.
Well, thank you guys for having me so much. And,
thank you. Obviously, your work is amazing, and keep it up because it's just gotten it's awesome.
It's great. We can't wait for your future work to come out. We got a Tomahawk, and you have Marvel issues that's coming out, so we're definitely excited for those, and we'll definitely be reviewing those as well. But thank you so very much for speaking with us. Honestly, we're truly appreciative of it.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to say one last thing. You guys look great in those God Country shirts.
Yeah, man. They're awesome. Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Donnie. Have a good one.
Have a good
All
one.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, wow.
Wow.
We just had, that interview was absolutely amazing because we were just absolutely nervous.
Yeah.
You know, we were thinking that we'd do a video call and we'd just turn it to the, you know, phone call, which is great, but we were still nervous. But
Yeah.
it,
Like,
the best.
yeah, guys, that interview, let us know what you guys think, but that interview was amazing. Donny Cates, just an awesome guy.
Man.
Cool dude.
Super cool dude.
But to go on what Jarell was saying, yeah, like this was our first interview. This is my first interview ever.
First interview, yeah.
And I was literally like shaking. I was nervous. I mean, look, when you read something and you're such a big fan of something like God Country and Redneck,
Right.
and you actually get to like talk to the creator behind that, like,
right. And just, yeah, I mean, you know, the questions that we asked, I mean, he went into full details of everything, and a lot of this, you know, by the end of the interview, you know, we finally realized, you know, even more what God Country was about because we're hearing it from the creator who put his heart and soul into it and gave us ideas and things that we didn't even think about at the time. So the coolest fucking thing I've ever had done in my life.
Like, I'm so glad that we have this documented here so that I can look back at this, you know, as a memory, you know. Awesome. I'm speechless amazing right now, and you know, later tonight I'll probably be the same. So
yeah, it was great, guys. So hope you enjoyed the interview with Donny Cates. Hopefully there'll be more to come.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Like the video, subscribe, share, and you know, get this information out there for anybody who hasn't seen or heard of anything on Donny Cates.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I want to know, guys, is share the video. Obviously, we want our channel to grow, but at the same time, like, I want Donny to get his thoughts out there to everyone and pick up this book and read it because it's amazing. It really is.
Right, and get to the information out there for people who haven't read God Country yet. You know, we were late. Our subscribers told us to read it. We did, and we had. Oh, I can't even talk properly right now. I was just so freaking psyched. But, you know, we just want to get this information out there. And anybody who hasn't read God Country, you know, listen to this interview, watch our reviews, and just read the book because it's absolutely amazing. You will absolutely love it.
Yep.
It's so great. So, all right, guys, that's enough from us. We're NocBro Nation, and
we're out.